Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Beyond the Bar podcast. I'm Denisa Tova, your host. And today's guest is a great friend of mine and someone actually who not only excels in the courtroom, but also literally conquers mountain trails. Ken Novenstern, he is a family law attorney. He's a partner at a law firm called Fredman Baken Novenstern. They have offices in White Plains and Mount Kisco in New York. And Ken brings a wealth of experience, and not only in family law, he's deeply committed to collaborative practice and also community service. But he has a hiking trail name, Hudson, that actually happens to be a name of our puppy. But his love for the great outdoors actually, I'd say it mirrors his passion that he brings into his professional life. And from serving on the board of the New York Association of Collaborative Professionals to his involvement with the Sawmill River Audubon and the executive leadership team for the Hudson Valley chapter of Alzheimer's Association, his dedication to making a difference is obviously, it's evident. Ken, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Denisa. Been looking forward to this for a while.
Me too. Me too, Ken. So, if I'm always interested in stories, as you know, so no surprise there. Let me ask you this: what events, people, in your life, shaped you to pursue career not only in family law, but specifically, how did you get into the collaborative law?
So in terms of people shaping, um, I actually, growing up in Rockland County over in New City, New York, I had several great aunts and great uncles. And two of my great uncles, Uncle Abe and Uncle Will, were attorneys in Highland Falls, New York. And actually, a colleague sent me a um, copy of a page from the phone book from 1929
Wow.
showing the listing for their office in Peekskill, New York. And so the idea that my father would go to these two men for advice stuck with me and was really important in my decision to become an attorney. With regard to the collaborative arena, um,
Mhm.
this really started in New York back in about 2000. And my then partner, Sylvia Fabriani, in 2003 got involved in the collaborative, and along with Neil Kozak. And so in 2004, I took the training, and I've been doing collaborative ever since, and got onto the board in about 2015. And this will be my last year on the board of directors of NYACP.
Now, if you had to do an elevator speech and describe how is collaborative law different to a traditional litigation, let me just actually simplify it even more for listeners who, let's say, are going through divorce. And all they know is I hire my lawyer, you hire your lawyer, and then we go and we duke it out in court. How would you explain to them that this model is different?
The main differences around collaborative divorce are, number one, that you are not in court. And with collaborative, it really is a team effort. I mean, there are certainly parts where you're focused on your client and what they want and what their goals are. So that's not gone from the process. But in a true, strong collaborative process, people are working together to come up with options, creative ideas, um, so that the parties can both achieve what is most important to them and at the same time get through the process, get the divorce done. And as you know, we bring in mental health professionals and financial professionals to assist where we need assistance, where the parties need support. one of the most important parts that I've seen is having people like you, other financial neutrals who can work on the retirement assets and assist us with that, assist us with more complicated financial questions. And typically, there's one party in the process who's less knowledgeable about finances. And by
Mhm.
having the support of a financial neutral who, will provide reports, will assist with budgets, that person who feels at a disadvantage, I think I've seen feels much more supported by having a financial neutral directly in the process. And that person may be in addition to their financial advisor, which
Mm.
again is helpful in the process. Collaborative gives us much more flexibility, gives the attorneys a much greater ability to communicate what they think is best under the circumstances as compared to a litigation process where each side is strategizing on their own for their own goals. In collaborative, you really are working together to achieve both parties' goals.
And that makes a lot of sense in being a healthier model overall, especially if children are involved or if it's important for divorcing couples to maintain healthy relationship, even like with their family members. So, I mean, I used to say that going through divorce, it doesn't mean that relationship is ending; it's just changing. So it seems like this is just a healthier and even more efficient in some respects. Stepping outside of work, I am dying to ask because hiking, somebody who had spent 2 decades in Colorado, I love the hiking trails, but I've never taken it to the same level as you have. So it's very clear that that's part of who you are, nature and exploring hike trails. Why is that? How did you get into it?
So, is connecting the dots of what you just said, I got divorced in, roughly 2012 time frame, collaborative divorce. Um, and so I had more time. My children at that point were then in college and or out of college. And in about 2014, right about this time of year, I met a friend through my Audubon, Salma River Audubon. And he and I talked about going kayaking together. We talked about going hiking together. And we actually started doing it in 2014. And the group has grown from 2 or 3 friends to an email list of about 40 to 50 people. And
Wow.
we do hikes every Saturday, regardless of weather, although rain is not the easiest thing to hike in. But
Yeah.
um, we're coming out of the colder weather. And so, I always had an interest in the outdoors, probably going back to childhood when my father had a bird feeder, my parents had a bird feeder in the backyard, and we would sit and watch the birds at the bird feeder. I now have 2 or 3 bird feeders in
Right.
my yard with my wife, Shari, at any one time. And this time of year, I'm going to start putting orange halves up to attract Baltimore Orioles. Um, and so in 2014, with this group of a few friends, we started doing hiking at a level that I had never done it at before. And we hiked over across the river at Storm King. And my friends all of a sudden climbed up this rock scramble, which I don't know that I'd ever done before. And they're both 4 or 5 years older than me or more. And
Wow.
I looked up and I thought to myself, well, they're older than me. If they could do it, I could do it.
Right.
And so that was really the beginning. And we've done breakneck many times. We've done trips. We do a trip. Our group does a trip every year. Last year, we went out to Idaho and rafted down the Snake River, starting
Wow.
at Hell's Canyon. And this year, we have a trip scheduled in Utah. So I've been very fortunate to to find this group of friends with similar interests. And we have people in the group from 40s and 50s. Our oldest hiker is Arnie, who is 82 and
Wow.
is amazing. He's an inspiration to all of us. And so very fortunate to have found this group of friends and to have found this passion, which really developed starting in about 2014.
I can only imagine that that keeps you in the moment, and it just sort of you are transported into a space where you can cut out all the noise and just really focus what's in front of you, literally put one foot in front of the other and just taking it all in. If that is not a form of meditation, I don't know what is. I can only imagine that you've met some amazing people along the way. Well, okay, you know what? I'm all over the place. Where does the name what is having a hiking, is it hiking trail name? Hudson? What, tell me about that.
So
I wanted to ask.
yeah, thank you. So we often hike on the Appalachian Trail, and
Mhm.
there are 91 miles of the Appalachian Trail in New York, 51 miles in Connecticut, and starting now, there are people who are through hikers. So through hikers, there are all kinds of through hikers, but mostly there are northbound through hikers or NOVOs that start in Springer Mountain, Georgia in January, February, March. And as an example, they hike all the way up to Mount Katahdin in Maine. So it's roughly 2,200 miles.
Wow.
And when we're hiking on the Appalachian Trail, and I've done the entire trail in New York, Connecticut, and sections in Massachusetts, New Hampshire, New Jersey. And when we're hiking on the trail, I always schedule the hikes to go southbound so that we come directly on the northbounders. And I love asking a series of questions, just like we're doing today. I ask them questions about when they started, where they are from, what they do. And most of them really enjoy having the opportunity to speak to us. And my friends in the group tease me about it, but they've joined in with their own questions. And so these hikers have trail names, and the trail names anything from hiking hokey to um, watermelon,
What a
Scooby. There
That's
was a
funny.
through hiker that we met this time of year back in 2019, and good looking young man, full red beard. And we met him in Fonstock up in Putnam County. And he was the first through hiker that year. So he had started January 30 in Georgia. And in 60 days, he made it all the way to New York. And we spoke to him for about a half hour. And he was doing something called the Hiker's Triple Crown, which is the Appalachian Trail, the Pacific Crest Trail, and the Continental Divide Trail, in theory, all in 1 year, which is about 6,000 miles. And when I asked him the question, why not Scooby Doo for his trail name instead of Scooby, he said, too heavy. And I followed
Heavy.
him on Instagram, and so it's just fascinating. It's a community. It's the old saying, what's said on the trail stays on the trail. So as we're hiking, we're all talking, and it's just a great place. As you said, it's an opportunity to clear your head. It's an opportunity to see things that you would never otherwise see, rattlesnakes, bears. Um, and it's just an important way for me to clear my head, keep my blood pressure down, and deal with some of the stress that we all carry when handling divorces.
Well, my blood pressure is way down. Just Just listening to this, it literally being transported. Now that through hiking, I mean, that is another level of perseverance and mental toughness. Yeah, that is wow, that is fascinating. What would you do if you couldn't practice law?
That's a great question. You know, and that goes hand in hand with, I think, the struggle many of us have in deciding when we might retire.
Mm,
And so, if I couldn't practice law, could I hike enough to keep myself occupied? I don't think so. If I couldn't practice law, that opens up another area. I do enjoy the stock market,
mm,
and I followed it and have read up on it over the course of the last 30 plus years. I remember as a child when my father purchased one share of, I think it was Commonwealth Energy, and one share of another stock. And, that was all I needed. And those were the days when they actually printed the stock pages in the newspaper,
yes.
and you could follow stocks. And the Dow Jones Industrial back then, I think, was still in the hundreds, not
Yeah.
the thousands or tens of thousands. And
Wow.
so, that's another thought that I've toyed with in terms of getting involved with the stock market. But ultimately, if retirement is in my future, I think I would be doing a lot of hiking, traveling with my wife, and just trying to enjoy the fruits of what I've done over the last almost 40 years.
I love following you on LinkedIn just because of what you said. You have a diverse interests and you post about great topics. Some people they kind of stick with sort of they're in their lane, so to speak, and do not really venture out too much. So I really do greatly enjoy that. Um, can you serve on the executive leadership team for the Hudson Valley chapter of Alzheimer's Association? What motivates you to contribute to this cause?
So, I think there are many of us who are what I call volunteer junkies, and I enjoy being part of these organizations. I mean, through my volunteering with Salmon River Audubon, I've just met so many wonderful people, so many people that have educated me about the outdoors. And so working with the Alzheimer's Association and Esther McCarthy and David Sobel, um, it's just, to some extent, it dovetails with the work that I do because I've had several cases over the years where one party is suffering from, you know, symptoms of dementia, and the other party still wants a divorce.
Mm,
And, we've dealt with those cases in a mediation context or a collaborative context. And so, helping both people get through that. But of course, there's the personal experience. And I mentioned my 9 great aunts and uncles who were, all born between 1898 and 2000, I'm sorry, 2000, 1898 and roughly 1918. And in the 1990s, I watched several of those great aunts and great uncles who were these wonderful people that I just looked up to growing up. And I watched them, also my grandmother, my mother's mother, um, with essentially dementia. I don't think they had the term Alzheimer's back then. Maybe they
mm,
did. Um, and I think it's something that many of us are going to have to confront at
yeah.
some point in life. And I'm enjoying becoming more educated about it. I'm enjoying helping in fundraising for it. And we've got our next Walk for the Cure in October of 2024. And so anyone out there that wants to be on my team, feel free to reach out. It's IMHC and Friends. That's the hiking club, the IMHC. And but I think it's just a reality of something that we all need to be aware of. And I just enjoy helping out and being there. And so that's the focus.
Yeah, there's just so much authenticity that just shines through, Ken, as you speak, and you have a big heart. And
Well, thank you.
well, I the time just flies, and I'm sure we'll have you back and dive deeper into some of these fascinating topics. And thank you. I really thank you for sharing your story and your blend of legal experience. Obviously, it's that's amazing, and the outdoors and sort of your, I would call it a deep-seated curiosity, somebody who has curiosity for people and things. I really do appreciate it. So you do have an inspiring and fascinating world, and thank you so much for being here with us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity, Denisa. And as we've discussed, my wife and I would love to get you and Glenn up to Connecticut, and I can get you out into the woods up there and or the beach, which, is beautiful. And so really do appreciate the opportunity and appreciate what you do and enjoy working with you. You and your team really do excellent quality work, and it's important to have people like you that I can rely on and that I know my clients can work with and trust.
Thank you. Thank you. That means a lot to me. I appreciate that very much. And to our listeners and viewers, to find out more about Ken and how to get a hold of him, we'll definitely post a link to his bio below, as well as about his walking event if you want to join him. And remember, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Beyond the Bar Podcast. Follow us on all social media channels. And until next time, stay curious and inspired.